Now, let me tell you something about seeing people clearly. We spend so much time looking at others, judging them, forming opinions, deciding who they are and what they're worth. But most of what we see is costume and mask. We see the performance, the act, the carefully constructed image that people present to the world. And we mistake this for reality. But there are two things, just two simple things, that will show you who someone really is. Not what they say they are, not what they hope to be or what they wish you would think of them, but what they actually are, underneath all the pretense and posturing. The first thing to watch is how they behave when there's nothing in it for them. When there's no audience to impress, no reward to chase, no advantage to gain. Do they still show up? Do they still care? Do they still act with decency and kindness? Or does the whole performance collapse the moment the spotlight moves away? You see, most people are quite wonderful when it serves their interests. The salesman is charming when he wants your money. The politician is compassionate when he wants your vote. The lover is attentive when he wants your affection. But what happens when the transaction is complete? What happens when there's nothing more to get from you? This is when the mask slips. This is when you see the real person standing there, perhaps confused that they even have to keep pretending now that the deal is done. Watch how someone treats the waiter who has already brought the food. Watch how they speak to the person who has no power over them, who can offer them nothing, who is simply another human being standing before them. I remember watching a man once in a restaurant. He was quite important, or at least he thought he was. Important job, expensive suit, the whole production. And he was dining with someone equally impressive, someone who could advance his career. You should have seen the performance. The smiles, the laughter, the careful attention to every word his companion spoke. He was the very picture of charm and consideration. But when the waiter came to refill his water, he didn't even glance up. When the busboy bumped his chair by accident, he snapped at him without breaking his conversation with the important person. The young man who brought more bread to the table might as well have been invisible. And right there, in those tiny moments that he thought didn't matter, his true character revealed itself. Because you see, character is not what you do when people are watching. Character is what you do when no one important is looking. When there's no credit to claim, no reputation to protect, no game to win. That's when the truth comes out, like water finding its level. The second thing to watch, and this is equally important, is what amuses them, what makes them laugh. Not the polite laughter of social occasions, but the genuine, spontaneous laughter that bubbles up when they forget to control it. Because laughter is one of the most honest things about us. When someone laughs at cruelty, at the misfortune of others, at jokes that demean and diminish, you're seeing something real. They can say all the right things about compassion and kindness. They can speak beautifully about justice and fairness. But if they're giggling at someone else's pain, if they find humor in humiliation, if they're amused by meanness disguised as wit, then you know what's actually living in their heart. I once knew a woman who spoke constantly about her love of humanity, about her dedication to helping others, about her spiritual nature. She had all the right books on her shelf, all the right ideas in her head. But she would laugh, really laugh, when someone told stories about making others feel small. When someone described an embarrassing moment for another person, her eyes would light up. When gossip turned cruel, she leaned in closer. And there it was, the real person, showing herself in those unguarded moments of laughter. Because you can control your words, you can manage your image, you can present yourself as anything you wish to appear to be. But laughter is involuntary. It comes from somewhere deeper than the thinking mind, somewhere more honest than the performing self. Show me what makes a person laugh, and I'll show you what they really value. Show me what they find funny, and I'll show you what they truly believe about the world and the people in it. The person who laughs with genuine joy, at kindness, at absurdity, at the playful innocence of life, they're revealing something beautiful. The person who laughs at suffering, at weakness, at the struggles of others, they're revealing something else entirely. Now you might say this seems too simple. Surely understanding someone's character is more complex than watching two things. And yes, humans are complex creatures. We contain multitudes. We contradict ourselves. We're capable of both cruelty and compassion, sometimes in the same afternoon. But these two things, how people behave when there's nothing to gain, and what genuinely amuses them, these cut through all the complexity. They bypass the thinking mind, the strategic self, the image maker. They show you what happens when the controls are off, when the guard is down, when the person simply is, rather than tried to be. Think about it this way. Every person you meet is performing a role to some degree. They're playing the part of the successful professional, the devoted friend, the spiritual seeker, the sophisticated person, whatever identity they've constructed. And some of these performances are quite convincing. People can maintain them for years. But the performance requires effort. It requires attention. It requires the person to remember their lines and hit their marks. And there are moments, brief moments, when the effort relaxes, when they forget to act, when they simply react. Those moments when there's nothing to gain, that's when the effort drops. Why pretend for the waiter? Why be kind to the janitor? Why treat the homeless person with dignity? There's nothing in it for you. And so if the kindness was only ever a costume, it comes off. But if the kindness is real, if it comes from something deeper than strategy, then it continues. It flows naturally. Because it's not work to be kind. It's simply what you are. And those moments of laughter, those are equally unguarded. Laughter happens too quickly for the strategic mind to catch. It erupts before you can think about how it looks or what it says about you, and so it reveals what's actually there, underneath all the careful construction of image. I'm not talking about occasional slips. Everyone has bad days. Everyone has moments of impatience or thoughtlessness. What I'm pointing to is the pattern, the consistent way someone shows up when they think the moment doesn't count, the habitual response they have to other people's pain or joy. There was a teacher I knew once, years ago, who was famous for his wisdom and compassion. Students would travel great distances to learn from him. He spoke beautifully about love and understanding and the interconnectedness of all beings. And for a long time I was quite impressed by him. But then I started to notice small things. The way he would ignore the people who cooked his meals and cleaned his rooms. The way he would dismiss questions from students he considered less intelligent. The way he would laugh, a particular kind of sharp laughter, when someone made a mistake or appeared foolish. And gradually I realized that all his beautiful words were just words. The real man, the one who existed when there was no benefit to being the wise teacher, was someone else entirely. Someone impatient with anyone who couldn't serve his image. Someone who found amusement in the stumbling of others. The contrast between his performance and his reality was so stark that it became almost comical. Here was a man teaching about compassion, while treating the people right in front of him with casual indifference. Here was a man speaking about the illusion of the ego, while carefully maintaining his own image as the enlightened master. And the saddest part was not his hypocrisy, though that was sad enough. The saddest part was that he seemed to genuinely believe his own performance. He thought the role he was playing was who he actually was. This is what happens when we don't pay attention to these two things. We get lost in the story people tell about themselves. We believe the performance. We confuse the actor with the role, and then we're surprised when the person we thought we knew turns out to be someone entirely different. But if you watch how someone behaves when there's nothing in it for them, you won't be surprised. You'll see clearly. You'll know who you're dealing with. And if you notice what genuinely amuses them, what makes them laugh when they forget to control it, you'll understand what's actually living in their heart. Now, here's something interesting. Once you start paying attention to these two things, you'll also start noticing them in yourself. You'll catch yourself being short with someone who can't advance your interests. You'll notice yourself laughing at something cruel or mean-spirited. And in those moments, you'll see your own character revealing itself. This is actually good news because you can't change what you don't see. As long as you're identified with your own performance, as long as you believe your carefully constructed image is who you really are, you're stuck. But when you start to see the gap between the role and the reality, between who you pretend to be and who you actually are, then something can shift. You might discover that you're kinder than you thought in some ways and less kind than you believed in others. You might find that what amuses you says something about your values that you hadn't quite admitted to yourself. This seeing, this honest looking at yourself without the filter of self-justification, is the beginning of real change. Because character is not fixed. It's not something you're born with and stuck with forever. Character is like a muscle. Every time you refuse to laugh at cruelty, even when everyone else is laughing, you're making a choice about who you want to be. But you have to see first. You have to be willing to look at how you actually behave, not how you think you behave or wish you behaved. You have to be willing to notice what actually makes you laugh, not what you think should make you laugh. And the same applies to understanding others. We can't see people clearly if we're only looking at their performance. We have to watch the small moments, the unguarded reactions, the times when they forget to manage their image. That's where the truth lives. So here's what I'm suggesting. For the next while, when you meet someone, notice how they treat people who can do nothing for them. Do they see the person cleaning the floor? Do they thank the person who holds the door? Do they speak kindly to the child who interrupts their important conversation? And notice what makes them laugh. Is their humor generous or mean? Do they find joy in life's absurdities or in other people's failures? Do they laugh with people or at them? You'll be amazed at what you discover. You'll see through so many performances. You'll understand people with a clarity that seemed impossible before. And perhaps most importantly, you'll start to see yourself more clearly too. The art of seeing character is really very simple. Don't listen to what people say. Listen to what makes them laugh when they forget to control themselves. Everything else is just theater, just costume and mask. But these two things, these will show you the truth every time. And once you can see clearly, you can choose clearly. Not based on their performance, but based on who they actually are when the curtain comes down and the audience goes home. This is not about judging others, this is about seeing clearly, about recognizing reality instead of believing in fantasies, about understanding that the most important thing about any person is not what they claim to be, but what they actually are in the small moments that they think don't count. Because those moments count.